Good morning, everyone. Welcome once again for our weekly Saturday webinars from Evolve HR conference. So today's topic is very interesting. My name is Sahil Karanje. I'm working with ConvInt and Techila Global Services. So today on the panel we have Mr. Virender Aggarwal and Mr. Srinivasan Govindan. So without further delay, let's have a quick dive into our today's topic, which is hard choice between contract versus full-time employees and resources, right? So, Mr. Virender Aggarwal, if I may start with you, would you just like to have a quick walkthrough on your journey so far before we go into the topics as such?
So I have over 25 years of experience in the IT industry and pretty much IT services industry, and last 10 years in the product industry, SaaS product industry. I'm also now involved in funding startups and running startups.
Great.
Product startups. So I have wide-ranging experience. I'm in fairly tech at heart, done a lot of programming, coding as well, and handle general management responsibilities, including being president of HCL and CEO of Ramco systems before this. So wide-ranging global responsibilities. I'm quite exposed to the global markets, global talent pool, including, of course, India and other low-cost countries.
Great, great. We would also like to hear from you, Mr. Srinivasan.
Yeah, thanks, Sahil. Hi, Virender, GS here. Good to see you after a long time, Virender. So I met you in 2008, 2009, a long time ago. So it's good to connect with you also, Virender. So let me introduce myself. I'm a thoroughbred HR professional starting from my career, right from 1991, 92 onwards, and 28 plus years in HR field. Having worked with top 3 manufacturing companies of South India, which is TTK, TI Group, and the TDS Group, and then moved into IT sector in 2000. I've been associated with HCL for the last 16, 17 years. I've seen HCL grow from 500 million organization to almost about $12 billion organization. So I currently head the digital business of HCL, which is about $4 billion unit, provide HR enablement for that. Thank you for the opportunity, Shahil.
Pleased to have you with us. Thank you. Thank you so much. So starting with our first point, which for me is sort of which I've got as a sort of inspiration from one of the posts I have seen recently on the internet, which said something like, see, for example, Amazon almost has no stores of their own. Facebook almost creates none of its own content as such. Alibaba has almost no inventory. For example, Airbnb, they don't really have their own real estate. So on similar note, do you really think there would be companies who will not really have FTEs and probably work entirely with contractors? Maybe Virender, I would like to start with your thoughts on this.
Yeah, I think sometime it may happen in the future, but there will be pure platform play. The companies who need to get that job done would still need to have some people. So at least the top management can't be, the top few employees can't be on contract. Australia, which is a very big contracting culture, you even find the legal officer, occasionally even CFOs on contract. But you can't have the CEO. So I guess there will be small proportion of people, core team, who may be full-time, and a large proportion of the team may be contract. That possibility is certainly there. In many advanced countries, that's a reality right now. And it may become increasingly in other countries as well.
Interesting. How about your thoughts, Srinivasan?
Yeah, adding on to what Virender said. Actually, Sahil, to me, this statement is a myth. Why I'm saying this is a myth is because Amazon may not be having stores, but somebody else will be having the stores for them to carry the inventory part, right? Facebook may not be having the content creation on its own, but somebody creates the content for them, right? And similarly, Alibaba may not be having no inventory part, but somebody will be doing the inventory part of it. And same Airbnb, but somebody else is doing that work on behalf. So it is for the company to decide what is their core and keep that as a full-time part, and what is non-core, which can be outsourced. That is what is going to differentiate the way things are going to handle. See, if you look at the way things have come up over the last 30 years, post-IT revolution in India, right? So India has always been looked upon as a company where people look for stable employment and other stuff. Now things are changing. So what Virender articulated is also right, very right. It depends upon what sort of a core that you want to focus upon to keep it at the minimum staff level, and what you want to outsource part, which can be repetitive in nature. Jobs which are mundane, repetitive in nature will be outsourced. And that can be contract kind of workforce. That's the way that I see that evolution coming. And see, whatever that you're talking about, saying that whether it's FTE contractor, you are a contractor for some US company also. Let's understand that, right? So it's vice versa. It depends upon what the core that you want to focus upon. That's my thought process here, Virender. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Kshitij, would you like to extend on this?
I think they pretty much covered most things. I think what Virender mentioned, the core team has to be in-house, right? But I feel the developer, like I'm talking more on the IT perspective. I think the developers, honestly, like these days, developers can be either a contractor or a full-time. I think it doesn't matter much as far as we're able to retain them on a project, till the duration of the project. So I think that's pretty open. But yes, the core culture of the company, the core values of the company, only a full-time can carry with them. So, that's a true statement. Yeah.
Right. Right. So on that note, what I would also want to understand is which other areas, typically from IT or IT-enabled services, would a company prefer to have, contract resources and not on full-time? Maybe, for example, marketing department, or maybe HR department, like how we are probably already seeing companies outsourcing their entire recruitment functions. So maybe even finance, as just Virender mentioned. So any further thoughts on this one?
I think there are a lot of functions which are non-core, which a lot of companies are already outsourcing. Finance BPO is a prime example. HR payroll outsourcing is very common. Recruitment outsourcing is very common. The entire HR process, HR support desk outsourcing is also a very common process. So as I had mentioned earlier, the core leadership, the people who make policies, the people who give direction, can be part of the main mothership. And the rest of the work, which is non-strategic in nature or non-direction giving in nature, which is routine and repetitive, can be handed over to various agencies, including facilities management. Now, nobody does the security guards, to facilities management, to various things. So most of the people want to focus on core. And core also, it's very difficult to get the skills that you need. So as long as you can get the job done by part-time workers to get the skills, I think there are a very large portion of the population in India is doing 1.5 jobs right now, if not 2 jobs. I mean, you may admit or not admit, but that's a fact. And especially that's the reason nobody is willing to work from office anymore. There is huge resistance because what will happen to the second stream of income? That is there.
Yeah. How about you, Mr. Srinivasan? You at HCL, do you have anybody apart from IT function right now, or do you see that happening in the future?
We do have what Virender mentioned has already happened in HCL. For example, we have outsourced a lot of non-core area, and Virender was also part of the journey when we started this journey in 2009 onwards, right? So a lot of non-core areas we've outsourced. It doesn't mean that all operational repetitive nature is also outsourced. There are certain things that we want to keep it to ourselves because those are contract-centric and client-based decision that we have to do that. So non-core area, even in other enabling functions like marketing, finance, as well as for example, the HR part is also outsourced to us. And in fact, we even tried doing entire train and develop also outsourcing, but unfortunately that did not yield us results. So we had to go bring it back to in-house also. So those are trial and error, that method that we also tried out, and then whatever that is not working out well, we actually brought it back to the main core area part.
Great. Your thoughts on this, Kshitij?
Yeah, but so other than IT, I see a lot of boom in healthcare domain. Healthcare, I see there's a lot of shortage of resources. Logistics and all you have been seeing. I think how Uber is working. How I think everything can be outsourced. To be honest, and everyone is moving toward asset light model. We don't know yet, but we already working with a lot of contractors. Maybe Zomato, maybe Uber, maybe any kind. So I feel contracting is something, even if you feel like IPL is also like a contractors only. They hire contractors for a certain period, they have them play matches and then release them, right? Whereas they're a full-time employee of their country. So I think contractors is a new thing, and I feel it's here to stay. And it will keep on increasing more and more. Like in US, anyways, I would say 50% of the workforce is already contractors, right? So, and India is all about copying the Western culture. So, I believe it will come to India, like it is coming to India, but it will enhance in India soon.
Right. Great. So, Mr. Srinivasan, what are some of the major challenges you have come across so far when it comes to hiring somebody on a contract role? Majorly from our IT enabled services perspective.
Yeah, primarily 3-4 challenges that we see on the ground. One is, we hire contract people only if the particular position is for a short duration, and the skill is of very, very niche in nature, and we can't be in a position to afford that full paper part. So that's what we go for short-term hiring in terms of contracting part. Otherwise, the challenges that we foresee, as well as keeping most of the people in contract basis, is the legal compliance part. So customer requirement is one, and the customer, whatever the customer contractual obligations part, then legal requirements pertaining to the particular country, that also we have to address to it. And third, most important thing is retention of key skills that are core to the company. So if these things can be addressed, I think contracting can be done, but it is here to stay in very, very limited scale for certain companies. That's what my opinion as far as this is concerned. So there are people like Virender who has been there, done that, because he's CEO for Ramco also. He's done that, so he can actually articulate much more.
I think for product companies, using contract is a lot more common. Product outsourcing, product development outsourcing is becoming fairly commonplace. The companies who do product outsource work for a living, they're specialized in that area. So my feeling is, while for large companies, their contract requirement for companies like HCL says that you cannot hire subcontractors without the permission of the client, without the approval of the client and so on. And the contractors would have to execute the same non-disclosure, same stuff that is being executed by HCL employees or embodied. The conditions which HCL they have imposed upon HCL will not impose any lesser conditions on the subcontracted company. So those kind of clauses prevail because they deal with very, very large companies. But we are in a fast-moving consumer world, B2C world, like you're dealing with candidates, Ritesh. So in that kind of a word, the candidate is not putting any contractual obligation on you in the kind of what large corporations. So I think we will see a diverge thing emerging, but even within, as we move to more and more digital nature of work that is happening in HCL and other companies, and not maintenance kind of work, which is very long duration. There also, I think there is a culture of short-term people will come in, because you no longer have very long-term projects. You no longer have 3 or 5 year SAP implementation and so on. So there are smaller duration projects. You assemble a team of experts and disband them and get the job done. And most of the systems are expected to be self-maintaining systems nowadays. They don't need the kind of maintenance they used to. So there's a change going on in the industry right now that we see. And the move to cloud also supports it a lot, because pretty much you can do it from anywhere. And people, like we are running a startup now, and no employee is in the same location, not single employee. In fact, the company doesn't have an employee. So either we are all co-founders or contractors.
That's an interesting.
We don't have a single employee, so to speak. Either you own the stake in the company or you're a contractor. Because we don't have the wherewithal to process somebody's payroll and do all that stuff and so on, pay for CPF, etc. We don't know the headache is. So we're just giving contract to people. But yeah, eventually if the company starts growing well, we will have to have some people on board, without doubt.
Right.
It's just a question, Virender, to you. But there are certain legal requirements which a particular country also tries to implement, right? For example, let's take for example in India, right? When you have an employee of more than 10 people or 20 people, you should have the provident for retirement benefits and all this stuff. So those things also play a role in terms of whether you want to have a person on a continual basis or on a short-term basis also, right? Isn't it?
Absolutely. See, those restrictions there. See, right now for us, having just 2 people in India means that we have to just cater to deducting their income tax. That's about it. We don't have to worry about the CPA. But that also headache we don't want. Who will compute the tax and so on. So eventually, there are a lot of companies coming who do that for you. There is a company called deal.com. A lot of companies overseas are using them for staff in India. The company called gusto.com. So there are a lot of support infrastructure coming in place, globalization partners, which lets you hire people in any part of the world. You don't have to open a subsidiary or a business unit and so on. You can pretty much, like secondment takes place. Essentially, the person belongs to you, but on their financial rules. So there's a lot of those companies coming in. These are called PEO organizations, professional employment organizations. And wherever, like we even established in Spain, we didn't have legal entity till then, we used a PEO. So it's a very common practice. I'm sure HCL also uses a PEO where they don't have a subsidiary organization. And that's a common practice. So I think a lot of the support stuff is coming, and these companies have grown really big. Bill.com is $6 billion market cap right now, I think. So that's the kind of level at which these companies are growing. And I'm sure, Kshitij, that company bench that you have started is essentially keeping everybody's excess inventory in one common place to be utilized. Rather than, it's like, your private car doesn't get used 20 hours in a day, or you doesn't get used, if you travel a lot, doesn't get used for 20 days in a month. So it's the same thing, So if it is running under Uber, it gets used. The asset gets utilized. It doesn't depreciate without earning you anything. So same thing for resource, because in case of asset, the depreciation is very slow. But in case of resource, every minute lost is a billing lost.
Right. No, that's true. And I've seen a lot of traction for that product, company bench. And Srini, you might not be aware of it, but basically what company bench does is like it's a pool of immediate resources. Like for example, HCL closed a big project and they need developers tomorrow. Like they need a team of 50 people. So we are able to deploy those people like literally we say in 24 hours, and we have done that. So and we I think it's a very exceptional thing what we have done. And in terms of like these are contractors, but we have a very unique model we'll discuss, because the whole idea is like, we have our own pool of vendors, through which we get the people right away.
So we do that on a certain kind of a boutique kind of a skills that we also do, but not at the size scale that what Virender talks about. It's slowly evolving. It has come into play, but I'm not saying that it's going to be the end thing. It might take another 2 or 3 years to get mature.
See, when I was in HCL, I would say a lot of restrictive conditions. Like Sony was developing the operating system of the TVs.
Correct.
They were reducing it from some 25 to 30 different platforms to one platform and so on and so forth. So that is a huge amount of IP. Knowledge retention is important. And they would not let any other vendor come in and gain knowledge of that. They would require a separate area, separate ODC, separate access, pretty much very, very tight contract. So when you're dealing with that, the flexibility you have is very little.
Right. But I think with like any company like HCL or Accenture, any company, they have to maintain huge bench, right? And that actually, I believe, takes off a lot of your profits, right? And I think with us, we call us our company benches like it's kind of your bench only, right? Which you don't have to pay. You only pay when you use that. So I think it's a very win-win situation for all. Where you benches like which you utilize whenever you are scaling up, whenever you're growing, and you need people.
Or you can have HCL expose their bench to your database.
That's actually a great point. And I was coming to that, and I've been exploring this with different people, because that can be a game changer itself. So I was actually speaking to Mr. Ravi Shankar about the same thing, and he has some thoughts around that. So yeah, we'll definitely catch up on that part. Yeah.
Actually, Chitis and Sahil and Virender, there was some sort of initiative which was started almost about 8-9 years ago. The National Skill Registry or something like that, right? I don't know where that particular project went about, because it was supposed to be all top IOP Indian IT companies. I think it didn't take off as anticipated. But
I think there is culture change also in India now. You see, when we graduated, we realized that if we don't have a solid job, we will have a problem in hand.
Yes.
Most people will not be able to get married if they don't have a proper job. And most people will not, their parents will feel extremely uncomfortable. But now, most of the families are rich enough. If the person doesn't have a job for 6 months, 1 year, doesn't matter to anybody. So the whole outlook of the people have changed dramatically from the society that we grew in. So I think it will be a lot more. We will see people will be willing to experiment, fail, and chuck their job, try a startup, fail, succeed, whatever. And that culture will increasingly come in as the society becomes more affluent. then you really don't know when. If you don't know when the next bread will come, you will want a stable job. But if you're not worried about the next bread, if the economy creates enough opportunities, if not there's something else, then I think you may not want to be bound. So I think the changes will keep coming.
Right.
Mr. Virender, do you also think contract to hire is a good thing? What are your thoughts about that particular model? Do companies get tried and tested sort of resources where they don't really have to wait
I think
for
there are
their
companies doing what I see Infosys doing right now is they try the person for 10 months, 9-10 months. So one of the vendors whom I know, and then they absorb the person on their roles. For 10 months, they pay the vendor an hourly dollar rate.
Correct.
And after that, they absorb the person. Whatever they don't like, that the vendors risk.
True. So that's happening. That's happening more in the European market, where there is not established presence of a certain company. For example, in HCL, we grew last 2 or 3 years in European market. Virender was heading the APAC part. I'm talking the European market, which grew in the last 3 or 4 years. The entire model that we have expanded our operations in Romania, Lithuania, and other areas to have a type of the local vendor there. And once we established ourselves with more and more business there, the opportunity of converting those contractors to regular roles came into the picture part. I think that model is going to stay also for some time.
And there is more expanded. It's called build, operate, transfer model if the capacity is large.
Exactly. Yeah.
Let's say if you're 200, 300 people capacity, you build, operate, transfer to your role. Like what Dun & Bradstreet did with Satyam, which became Cognizant now. And the Cognizant is much larger than current day Satyam Tech Mahindra. But essentially, it was a small ODC setup for Dun & Bradstreet by Satyam with a clause for build, operate, transfer.
Yes,
Right.
It happened in 1993, Whitestone. I was supposed to be the second employee of DBSS.
Then you are the person. You know it all.
Yeah, in fact, we are doing it for our own customers, right? There are a lot of healthcare customers who want to set up shop in India, and we actually scout for the place and make sure that they develop. For example, I can be very open in terms of stating that Thrive is one classic example. Thrive Healthcare. So they are operating in all the three spaces: payer space, provider space, and pharma space in terms of providing all the solutions part. So we do the BOT model for them. So more and more companies are coming into India and then asking for companies like us to do that BOT model, and this particular model that we can explore also.
Right. So, go ahead, Sahil.
Yeah. So, Mr. Srinivasan, the next question is sort of like when you're hiring a contractor, would you really trust them even for if they're a long-term contractor? Would you trust them with the same amount of investments in terms of any trainings or in terms of any skill enablements that you would do it for a full-time employee? Or how does that work?
Right now, the problem is we are seeing that difference between a contract employee not being given the train and developer, T&D, L&D kind of an opportunity vis-a-vis FT employee. But as things mature and as we come across what Virender said is going to happen, right? And we have to ensure that upskilling of those contractors also will save us cost. If that thought process comes into play, I think we should be in a position to look at that as a more open space part rather than being considering ourselves only to FT employees. Because right now, I don't think we have we have not opened up our training ports or licenses to them so far.
Right. Yeah. Why to train someone else who might leave? So one question even I have, sorry from my end, and so the way this whole market is changing, right? And I've asked this question in the previous webinar as well. Is like how efficient these days is to hire a fresher and train them for 1 year, 2 year, and then once they're ready, they leave. So is that model? I know previously, people used to stick with a company for at least 5 years. I've seen TCS hiring in bulk, Infosys hiring in bulk, and training people for 6 months, even a year. 1 year, people don't even go to office; they just go for attendance, they just go for TT table and all, and then after 1 year and 2 years, they become productive, right? And then that's a time when they start earning for the company, right? Now, I think what I've seen, at least even in my organization and another organization, is like you hire someone, you train them for a year, you do a very aggressive training, and after 1 year, they say, okay, thank you so much. Now I'm ready for the market, and now either you pay me X or I'm leaving, right? So are you also facing the same thing? And is there any is it still profitable?
Actually, whatever that you talked about, Chetas, is actually happening, and we actually thought about it. Our fresher intake as well as fresher attrition was very, very high after the post one not. We also have Indian culture of a bond, right? So 15 months bond and other stuff. That was a deterrent for them. But nowadays, nobody cares about the bond because the market offers them a trained resource becomes easy pick for any competitor for them, right? So what we did was we are now giving them a next 4 or 5 years. Plan in terms of what sort of a training, what sort of a role that they can develop into, what sort of career opportunity that can be developed. Even the fitment also we are sharing upfront now. We are doing that as much more so that we have a ROI of kind of a 3 to 5 years window now. So we want to prolong that so that whatever the investment that we're doing in the first 1 year doesn't get wasted by at the end of second year or third year. At least for 5 years, it yields us results. Post 5, it's the best to stay back, right? So you can't hold a person back beyond 3 or 4, 5 years. After that, definitely people look forward for a change in the current environment part. If you can actually retain them for at least 3 to 5 years, that ROI becomes much more profitable for us also. That's what we in HCL have introduced something called a P2P, point-to-point fitment, so that they have anybody who joins as a fresher, a cadre, right, has a clear visibility of what they can actually earn. Okay, it has downside also. I'm not saying that everything is hunky-dory part, right? People start negotiating, saying that, okay, you showed me this particular point. There's somebody else who's offering me this plus X. Can you offer me that? So we say that, okay, why don't you train yourself on this area so that you also give me a return of your skill also there. So I think it's a win-win situation, but it has yielded results in the last 1.5 years, 2 years, because we're able to stem the attrition part. Hopefully, we should see that next 1 or 2 years down the line.
Right. And let's say, Virender, do you want to add on this?
Yeah, so my view is, the need to train comes because the universities, the curriculum is totally outdated. It's got no relevance to what is required today. Like they are not teaching JavaScript, they're not teaching Node.js, React.js, Angular, Kubernetes. What they are teaching is C, C++, Python, not Python as well. So they're just teaching ABC and C++. That's about it. And so a lot of training institutes have come up which train people in the final semester or final 2 semesters on Salesforce or various other skills and get them certified while they're still studying and make them relevant for the job. And then they start offering them to companies, ready-made candidates who can be absorbed. Because this investment is huge, paid like HCL does, because everybody does. And it's extremely dangerous to lose those people after putting in so much amount of money. So I think the hybrid companies that are coming in the middle and training people at their own risk is something that I see emerging. The first example that I gave earlier was also of a company which is taking the training risk on themselves. So those kind of things are emerging, and my feeling is the market will cool off because of the startup, the free funding that they were getting seems to be, the party is over. So I think the insane salaries that we saw may not materialize, but I think the curriculum has to change, or the students have to just focus on learning something outside of their curriculum, and curriculum just to score the passing marks and get by, because curriculum has no relevance to what the real world wants.
Makes sense.
Just to add on, Chetas, to Virender, right? So one of the things that we also started now is a platform called EduTech platform. So we have spun off a separate subsidiary where we want to invest in a particular company to, it's like old NIT. NIT is coming in a new avatar from HCL side. And we have put a separate leader to look out this and have a tie-up with most of the universities so that we can actually do the training curriculum upstream in the last semester itself. So they become trained resource. It has dual advantage. One is it's a trained resource for any of the companies who are looking for them, recruiting them. And second thing is cost of training is minimized at the entry level itself. So it is funded by the self-funding kind of stuff, and which is very lower in budget. Unlike
I think Ravi Shankar was heading the HR for HCL Talent Services. I think Prem also was doing.
Correct. The talent staffing solutions. Yeah.
Talent. So, but that's I don't know why it folded up. Not very clear. But
it is coming in a new avatar. It is coming in a new avatar. Yeah, it is coming as a new avatar. At that time, people said that it is a conflict of interest. Now things have changed.
Yeah, no, I think that is going to happen, and I see a lot of that possibility of, because nobody has patience to train entry for 1 year anymore to get it.
Right. And mainly from the contract vendor management perspective, would would you prefer like a one-stop shop, like a vendor who's specialized or having availability of multiple skill sets from where you can, get the contractors, or would you still rather prefer somebody like a boutique sort of a vendor where he is specializing in, let's suppose, one or two niche skills? Mr. Virender, how would you, like to?
See, my personal preference would be somebody who specializes in boutique. When I say boutique, it means Salesforce itself is huge. Salesforce after the acquisition has about 30 skills that are required. So somebody specializes in Salesforce, somebody specializes in RPA domain, not necessarily say UiPath or Blue Prism or something, in RPA domain or business process automation domain, covering Pega to everything else along with it. So that kind of specialization, like the one that I gave example of Infosys earlier, my friend out of Singapore, just run supply chain training for them. Nothing else, only supply chain stuff. So very specialized, and he has a content built around his PhD in supply chain, and he has got gamification systems imported from Holland for gamifying and making the whole thing very interesting. So the quality of education that he's able to impart is very high, and he selects people who have inclination toward that process. My personal feeling would be, preference would be to people who would be specializing in one area. But if some company is able to do everything, then why not?
How about you, Mr. Srinivasan? What do you think?
I echo what about Virender just articulated, because specialization is the heart of, is a need of the hour as far as certain skills are concerned. Because if you want to seed a project which is quite new to the market part, right, you require a boutique vendor to enable us to do that part. But at the same time, when we are looking at volume game, right, because we have to grab the business before the other company grabs it, right? So those things are also coming into play in the last 2 years. Post-pandemic, if you look at it, it's like a up and down scale. Now everybody's looking at Q on Q growth of 5%, 6%, even 7%. HCL is able to do that. Overall last year was close to about 20%, which has never been seen in the last 5 years, 6 years, right? So we want to convert those opportunities. That is where the volume game comes into play. So we have to have a balance of both. So we restrict ourselves to both boutique vendors, and what we do is we have something called a key pass-through vendor. So we have a one or two higher vendor where all the volume game, some sort of sub-vendor kind of a system can also articulate it there. For example, 10 vendors get attached to one particular pass-through vendor, and we actually have one person to deal with rather than dealing with 10 people. Whereas boutique vendor can be a separate path altogether. That's the model that we also work. It's like hub and spoke kind of model. I hope you,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting perspective there. And do you think, like how we see in US, maximum workforce is moving towards becoming an independent contractor. Do you see same trend coming to India IT as well?
So, asking me or Virender?
Yeah, sure. Please feel free to go ahead.
Yeah. In fact, it is already there. And I think it started arriving 2 years back itself. And more people gone are the stigma attached saying that I don't have permanent work. No, if I work for 2 hours, 3 hours, exhibiting what my skill set is, and I can work for 2 or 3 companies also. That's what's happening in India. I think that trend is picking up here in India, and we look forward to those kind of specialists too, especially that the senior level people who are subject matter expert. They can add a lot of significant value through this kind of employment opportunities that way. We are seeing that coming up also, especially a lot of new projects that we are working on. So most of the seed team are looked at a senior team, which is actually in technical area. We are actually contracting people.
Mm-hmm. Do
And
you have the same feeling, Mr. Virender? Yeah, sorry, please, you were continuing.
No, that's no, child, no.
Yeah, I think the perspective is very right. So I know, people, one person is doing 4 assignments right now that I know of for various companies and specialize in that area. Charges sitting in India $250 US per hour to Indian companies as well, not only overseas companies. So there's a level of expertise and people are willing to pay for it. So why not? And at junior level also, somebody, if you're looking for Web 3.0 or you're looking for Solana networks, and so are willing to pay pretty much anything and everything for that kind of skill, because that's a very extremely rare skill. Somebody can work on Solana or NFTs and so on and so forth. So those kind of special, and the speed at which this economy is coming on us, Web 3.0 is very high. So companies, if they can't gear up for it, don't seem to be finding the favor. to the global market. So my feeling is this will continue to happen. Like if you have Snowflake, data breaks, very niche skills on data lakes and so on. So you will have to hire expertise too, which will be, and the expertise may work with 2-3 different companies. You can't do pretty much on the same day also. In fact, many of the people that I know specialists are refusing to sign any non-compete. They say we will work with your competing companies, do whatever you feel.
Yeah, I was reading this NASSCOM report, which was published, I think, 2 months back. And as of today, in IT companies, there is a supply demand gap is 21.1%, as of this year, right? And as per NASSCOM prediction, it's going to 3.5x, in next 3 years. Okay, so my only question is if that is going to happen, one person will not be sufficient to do one job, right? It will be the other way around. So people have to work 20 hours a day, to fulfill that. All else, we will lose all that economy, we will. I think the it's almost like $3.5 trillion something kind of.
I think Kshitij, what is happening also is companies like HCL have setups in Brazil. In my time itself, Brazil had opened up Siddharth Virender, right? Mexico, Poland, right? Romania, Vietnam, fairly large setup. So the expansion, global expansion. So no longer it's about talent from India alone. In fact, when I advertise for our company's full stack developer, a lot of interesting requests came from Vietnam to Ukraine to even Kenya, to people offering their services. And the CTO was very tempted to utilize one of them. So I think that multiple things working will be somewhat unavoidable unless you are restrained by the kind of large contracts HCL signs.
That's a great point, but again, and I might have asked this in the previous session as well, but if this is happening, will India still be how is it going to be for India? Will for now India is like a go-to market, for offshore, right? But the way the salaries are increasing in India,
I think Kshitij, you don't worry about what will happen to India or not. Let's say that Indian companies, if they don't do it, like Accenture added $20 billion to revenue last year. Okay? Accenture pretty much added one HCL plus Wipro combined.
Mm-hmm.
And if Indian companies have to grow, you can't let that happen. So you have to also become global, and you have to view it as a global talent pool. If Indian manpower is uncompetitive, it's uncompetitive. It's as simple as that. I mean, the education sector has to take care to produce grads who could be deployable, employable, billable. If it doesn't produce it, then where does the economic strength come from? If some other country does a better job at it, they will get away with it. And remember that low code, no code movement is very strong. So coding per se itself, the technology job may not be as much in demand as we think. And most of the BPO stuff that we know of is getting eliminated through RPA or CPA, cognitive process automation. So the changes are taking place. So I will see that we don't have to worry about whether Indian programmer is competitive or not, because the person is not competitive, the salaries will come down. Again, it will become competitive. So the demand and supply gap will keep adjusting. It's like the Uber charge, right?
Yeah, surcharge, right. Right.
Yeah,
because what I've seen, honestly, in my case, and I know we have some people from Techila as well on this call, but what I have seen is if I hire people from Mexico, they're cheaper than my Indian resources, and they are like near shore, for my US clients, they are sitting in the same time zone, they speak a better language, and all those things. So what I'm saying is maybe I should also start hiring from Mexico or Philippines.
One of my friends yesterday sent me a requirement from Sweden, which was so complex. I said the person in India won't be available. Don't bother servicing that requirement, and tell the client they are very foolish to have a person with so many different skills in one single person. So he says, you want me to tell that to the client? I said, yeah, go ahead and tell them that this is you are just asking the person to be when you break all the 7 check reviews, so which not many people can do. So and when it comes to paying 400 US per hour, will you pay for such a skill? No, they won't pay. So you want to pay 100, 120 US per hour, and you want to have pretty much anything and everything out of that person, won't happen. And I said, in India, people, it's an offshore work. They don't do such kind of on-site consulting work. So I think my message here is, skill may come from various places, expertise may come from various places. The kind of people you may have on a project may be multiple nationalities, and so on. I think we should be ready for it. Mixed deployment of Mexicans come, Vietnamese come, Polish come, Malaysians as well, Indonesians.
True.
Right.
Yeah. So India is going to be very competitive. Like, the way the salaries are increasing and, there is no stop to that. I feel that it might not be sustainable for the clients anymore, soon. Right.
It's like the oil. No? So somebody has to have supply capacity. India is the only place with the supply capacity. Who else in the world? Romania, what's the population of Romania? What needs can it meet? If it meets HCL need itself is enough. The second player can't go to Romania because between HCL and them, they won't have enough people.
Right.
I think India has a huge advantage of young population and relatively better educated population. Relatively still not so well off to try hard in life.
Right. But I've seen like in India, IT is no more like especially for youngsters and all, previously people used to only do BTech or MBBS, right? Now they're very open. So what I've seen, even though population is not increasing that fast, but the number of BTechs or number of engineers are reducing year on year, so that's also a challenge.
Yeah, in all advanced economies, getting people to the STEM education is very difficult. So like there's a reason US was trying to attract people to study science, technology, and so on, STEM education as they call it, and gave OPT visas for people to stay for long to work in US. There are drives in various countries to ask people to STEM education because how many English, history, geography teachers can you deploy?
Srini, like, have you in HCL, like, are you only hiring from BTechs and all, or do you also now started picking from PAs?
No, that's what I was coming to. I think gone are the days we are looking at the engineers as the only prospect software engineer part. We now have a scheme for developing tech bees. Okay, Wonder Tech bees is a stream where we hire people who pass 12th standard.
Wow.
That's a new thing that we have actually started. It's a separate stream. And if you look at the way that our freshers composition is upping, right? We recruit 100 people, 80 people are tech bees and only 20% are engineers. Unless otherwise the customer contract specifies that it's 10 plus 2 plus 4. Otherwise, we find that these people, India are capable, there are a lot of people who are capable of studying something and doing something. The 10 plus 2 people, we offer them Tech B course where they can undergo training for 1 year, simultaneously work and then earn the degree. We sponsor them, PS and MS part of kind of stuff, 5-year course. And they get good degree course from Shastra and BITS. We had that earlier. That particular scheme was working very well in Wipro and HCL. Somewhere it got diluted and we couldn't continue that. Now the same stream is coming up very, very passionately, and Chairman himself is driving that very clearly.
I think interesting you mentioned that, because there is a company I was talking to. They say we are set up in Bhilwara. I said, why Bhilwara? He says very difficult to lose employees from there. So I had to ask them, okay, pardon my ignorance, but where is Bhilwara incidentally? So I had a rough knowledge it's possible in Rajasthan, but
yeah, even for us, like our office is in Bareilly, so Bareilly, we are the only IT company there, right? And that's how we are able to retain talent, and they are really good people. So, they feel that, that they have to perform, and, other options there. So I've seen them performing even better than, people in the Pune office or Bangalore office. So I think tier 2 or tier 3 cities are actually another way of looking into it, and
yeah, I think Zoho Sridhar Vembu very well, glamorize the whole work from village culture.
Right. Things are changing. I think that it's a completely new word, I believe. And for you guys, I think it's a completely shift of what you have seen so far in last many years.
No, but that's the way that we have seen in the last 2 or 3 years, Chitas. For example, all our expansion, forget about the major expansion that's happening in the major clients in the normal cities. Our major expansion in tier 2 cities. We opened up office in Vijayawada. We opened up office in Nagpur, Lucknow, and Madurai. Madurai was the first one. So slowly and steadily, tier 2 cities are gaining ground, and more people are joining there. And in fact, we have hit almost about 2,000, 2K, 3K, numbers in all these areas. And local talent pool is a greater guide for us.
Oh, that's great.
Also, Mr. Srinivasan, now, talking a little bit about the current hybrid model of working, right? Working from office plus working from home. And looks like this model is the one to stay for quite some time, especially for IT, ITES industries. Probably it gives multiple choices to the employees for some fixed amount of time period. Similarly, happening in US and India as well. So, do you think this is good for the company, and how long it would probably last, or what would probably be the pros and cons?
In fact, Sahil, I think this is something that we learned post 2015. If you recollect the way that Chennai underwent the flood situation, right? Because I was one of the person who was coordinating the flood mitigation BCP program for HCL and other stuff. At that time, we couldn't even operate any of our offices or service the clients in 2015. If you look at the way the pandemic started in 2020, right? When the pandemic started, we were able to switch swiftly, move away, and ensure the 100% work from home operation possible. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. So 100% we were able to make sure that the work from home is operationalized. So I think this hybrid system is here to stay, but the percentage between how many number of people who are going to be working out of office, how many number of people are going to work from home, will depends upon what the customer needs also. And it also depends upon what is core, not core, which has to be performed at what level. That's what is going to determine the ways of working. And it's going to be staying. In fact, what TCS broadly announced, 25 by 25, right? 25% of the workforce will be operating permanently by 2025. So we don't want to announce that, but we are announcing that at least 30% would be working from office, balance 70% are from home only. So that's the way that we are looking at for the next 1 or 2 years.
Right.
And the pros and cons, any pros and cons are if you have good governance council, like governance around data part, data security, ensuring that people are given adequate bandwidth and ensure that people are given adequate operational abilities. I think this is here to stay. And unless otherwise, those things are getting distracted, I don't think anybody will have any issues in not coming to office work, because people have now understood that. And some of the people who are from the other gender are liking it a lot because it gives them a lot of balance in work life also there now.
Right. Mr. Virender, your thoughts about this?
Yeah, no, I think it is here to stay. Hybrid is going to be the norm going forward. I know of a few companies who tried to enforce coming office and they started losing employees at such a fast pace.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of operational costs will also be saved. For example, running buses, running taxis, all those things are now we've learned that we can actually operate without those things also.
Yeah, but recent email by Elon Musk is all over the place in which he says that I would treat you as resigned if you don't show up in office. So yeah, I think for technology companies, work from home, hybrid work culture is the thing. And companies which require a lot of collaboration, or at least amongst the group of people which require collaboration, there may be occasions where they may ask them to have common 2-3 days. That, let's say, like my daughter's office requires them to be in the bank on Wednesday and Thursday, 2 days.
And lastly, just in the interest of time, I would also like to quickly understand what would IT and ITES industry really look forward to, let's say, in 5 years down the line from the manpower strategy perspective. What would be the top picks?
I would say that, yeah, sorry. So instead of having a balance of 100% full time or 80%, 90%, I think it would be 70-30 kind of stuff. Because 30% flex workforce will be in operations 2 years down the line, because that gives them ability to scale up and scale down whenever the demand is high and low. Because that's the way that I come from a manufacturing background. This was a way of operation way back in 1991 in TI cycles. Whenever there's a demand, we used to call people for manual. It's a manual company, right? So we have to do manual work and other stuff. So we call them as a T numbers. I think the same culture is now coming to IT also. That's my perspective. Yeah. 70-30. Yeah.
My feeling is, addressing from the skills perspective, there will be a lot of demand for package-related skills, like the kind of demand explosion that we have seen for Salesforce.com. I mean, at least I know of some big 4 consulting companies. Many of them have upwards of $5 billion of consulting practice on Salesforce alone. service now is becoming a huge practice for pretty much most companies. So there will be a lot of demand for packages, not only languages. So earlier we were saying C, C++, Java is the skill base, is not the likely thing. Third is the Web 3.0 technologies, knowledge will be extremely important. And fourth is that given the speed at which low code, no code movement is taking place, there is a big danger that the automation is hitting the industry which was automating everybody else's job.
Great. Great. I think we are a little hard pressed on time right now, so I'm sure we can continue a bit more further. There's so much from the knowledge sharing from both of you gents, but I really thank you for your time today and really appreciate the gems of valuable insights that you've shared. Kshitij, any final words from your side?
No, you see, we do this session because we want to learn from the experts, right? And of course, we are just everyone on this call. We all are already putting up a whole channel, which will be like a learning curve for other junior HRs, junior management, junior CEOs, and all who might utilize this in their company. So that's the whole idea how we can, squeeze that knowledge from you guys and try to give it to other people and help them. That's the whole idea of having these sessions. So thank you so much, for spending the time over the weekend. And I know, Srini, you were on a vacation. So thank you so much, for taking some time out from your, leaves.
Thank you. And
And
thank you for the opportunity to meet up with Virender also after a long time. Yeah, seriously, I'm meeting him.
Sahil, just send me his mail and mobile number. Yeah.
I will make sure I connect you both again.
And your colleague in Madurai also reached across to me. So I did a webinar with him on CII promoting webinar, promoting the city of Madurai. I'm forgetting the guy's name.
Sure.
Okay, thanks everyone.
Yep,
all right, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot, everyone, and make sure you do like, share, and subscribe to the YouTube channel and our social media pages as well. And keep tuned in every week for latest content on the industry. Thanks a lot.
All right, thank you. Bye.